Welcome to Coffee and Popcorn, where we bring you the most striking stories from around the world. Today's stories are jam-packed with all sorts of twists, but hopefully we can all take something away from them. In our first story, we have a woman who's willing to make false accusations to cover up her cheating, and in our second story, we have a woman who snuck away for 3 days to visit her grandma. But is that the only thing that happened? If you want to know how these stories end, get yourself a coffee and grab a bowl of popcorn so we can get into it.
Me and my girlfriend Melissa started dating in September of 2021. It was the typical teenage romance. We shared our first kiss, spent every second we could with each other, and both wanted to build a life together. Eventually, we moved in together. This was in December of 2022, and all was well for a few months, as we were loving every second being with each other full-time. We got an apartment close to where she and I both worked, which was an assembly line for engines. It's a 2-building complex, with her stationed in one building and me in the other. Because of this, we weren't around each other at all during the day. This led to both of us having our own friend groups at work, while having time to ourselves at home. I heard a lot of stories about what my girlfriend and her friends were doing during this time, most of whom were male. I had no problem with this because I trusted her completely, and thought our relationship was solid enough to not have to worry about it. This is where I introduce you to Cedric. Cedric started out as a normal friend. I always heard about how much of a doofus he was on the line, and often heard stories about what they did to pass the time. One day, Melissa came home with a little paper tank that he made, which was a typical thing for her friends at work. I don't exactly know how their relationship functioned, but when I talked to people who worked close to them, I found out they were a lot closer than she let on. Things started to escalate when he invited her to start working out with him at a local gym. She accepted his invitation and let me know about it, so it's all good. Melissa started to work out with Cedric more often, which is cool because I supported her in whatever she wanted to do. Eventually, she started inviting him over to hang out. Again, I was fine with this because he's a cool guy and really good at rock band. What I started to notice, though, is that he shared a lot of common interests with my Melissa, and one of those things was their love for alcohol. Melissa started going to Cedric's house to hang out and get drunk. The first time she did this, they got so plastered that they passed out. They didn't even let me know that they planned on getting that drunk. I stayed up all night waiting for her, calling to check on her, and then going over to his place to see what was going on. I got no answer when I knocked, but the lights were on. She got home the next day and we talked about it. The next time she planned to hang out with him, she said that she'll do a better job of keeping me updated. Life goes on. She started going to Cedric's more often, staying over more often, and talking about him a lot more. I do get a little jealous, but I trust her, and I'm genuinely happy that she has someone to hang out with, as I'm not much of a drinker myself. I tell myself that she's done nothing to make me not trust her, so I try to be supportive. This goes on until around late January, early February this year. She started acting sullen and withdrawn, saying that she's fine, but needs space, and of course I oblige. During this time, she told her best friend that one night over at Cedric's, herself, Cedric, Cedric's girlfriend, and another coworker all got hammered and blacked out. It was during this time that Cedric sexually assaulted her. I'd come to find out later that everything in that sentence is a bold-faced lie. Her friend tried to get her to tell me because she wanted to continue hanging out with Cedric, and if she doesn't, after a while, her friend was going to tell me herself because she couldn't have it on her conscience. Melissa reacted to this by cutting her off entirely for going behind her back. When she got home, Melissa told me what happened, but instead of saying Cedric assaulted her, she said it was the coworker who tagged along. After all this, she didn't want to get a rape kit, which is fine, because I've heard those things are very invasive. She also didn't want to get an STD test. She took a pregnancy test, but never showed me the results, and wanted to go over to Cedric's more often because he felt guilty for what happened and is lonely. This goes on for a few weeks, and she continues to be extremely withdrawn, asking for space, and spending every chance she gets at Cedric's, until one day she said that she needs space. She goes over to Cedric's for what she says will be 2 weeks. She said the passion's gone out of our relationship and she needs time for herself. I asked if she has feelings for Cedric, and she said that he's like a brother to her. Anyway, those 2 weeks turned into 3 months. I give her the space she needs, and I don't contact her for the first week or so, but communication eventually starts up again. I tell her good morning and good night, and I check up on her from time to time. Just trying to be there for her, you know? She keeps saying that she needs space, and that I'm still the person she loves. It seemed like every night she was getting drunk, she even started smoking again and started doing some other stuff, too. Some nights, she got hammered enough to send me a breakup text, but walked it back the next morning. The next time I see her is in the middle of the night at the end of the 3 months, not because she was ready and wanted to see me, but because she got angry at Cedric. Even though she was home again, she was still going to Cedric's whenever she got the chance. Through all of this, I still trusted her. I tell myself she hasn't done anything to not be trusted, but I ask her again if she has feelings for Cedric, and again, she said no. Despite going out on dates with him to museums and dine-in plays, which she framed as class projects for his college, throughout all this, I still trust her. Everything came crashing down in a single day after she got home from Cedric's. We go to get groceries together, pick up her prescription, and stop by Tractor Supply to get cat litter and some plants for her garden. She's about to leave to bring Cedric's laundry to him because she does that at our place. And that's when I have the bright idea to check her phone. I open her messages with him, which were surprisingly short. It looked like a lot had been deleted. But what she forgot to delete was him asking for nudes, calling her baby, and her sending him nudes. I confront her, she gets quiet, and walks away. When we eventually get home, she starts acting sad when I ask her why she did what she did. She said she wanted to feel pretty and wanted, but that her and Cedric are entirely platonic. She leaves that night. I text her the next morning, asking if we can make it work, because despite everything, I still love her. She said that she wants to, but is still her usual withdrawn self. There was no attempt to engage or do anything, like a kid who's in their own head waiting for whatever's happening in front of them to end. She tried for a couple of days, but then said it would be best for us to break up because she's not in the right headspace for a relationship. If it's meant to be, we'll meet again in the future. Soon after, she moves in with Cedric. I said to her, "If that's really what you want, all right, thank you for trying." Her stuff gets moved out that day while I'm at my dad's, but when I finally return to a half-empty apartment, I cry when I see that her dresser's gone. This goes on for a while. I'm sad and lonely. Some of her stuff was still at my place, as well as her cat, because Cedric's place was smaller and doesn't allow animals. She comes by about a month later to finalize things and grab whatever she left. But when she leaves, I notice something. She left her old phone. Melissa's old phone is still logged into her Samsung account, and this phone syncs with her current phone. Finally, I was able to see everything. There were I love you texts between Melissa and Cedric the day after she moved out. This was after she told me they were platonic. From their messages, it seemed like they'd been in a relationship for a while. Also, in the messages are details about what happened during a trip to the beach after she left my place. She got into an argument with Cedric and tried to, let's say, end her own story. Given her history of self-harm, I told her mother, the only person I could think of who hasn't cut ties with her. Myself, her former best friend, her mom, stepdad, and one of her brothers all meet up to have lunch and compare stories. None of them match. She had told her mom that she moved in with a female coworker and about how the coworker assaulted her. She told her friend that Cedric's girlfriend or coworker weren't at the house that night. It was just Melissa and Cedric. In this version of events, she had told her best friend that Cedric was the one who assaulted her. I show her mom everything I have, both from her old phone and mine, which included some texts where she talked about her mom. At the end of the meeting, everyone was furious and worried. After all of this, I sent Melissa a text, just one more time to find out what really happened. I still don't know the extent of her and Cedric's relationship, but the gist of it is, they started talking when they were going to the gym together, and one night they got drunk and had sex. She felt guilty and tried to say it was assault, but still wanted to be with him. Eventually, it escalated into a full-blown relationship. Melissa resisted telling me all this at first. She tried to blow me off, saying that she'll block me, but in the end, I got the answers I needed. I screenshot the conversation and sent it to her mom. But now, I'm trying to move on.
What an absolutely crazy story. Please, guys, for the love of everything good in the world, if your partner starts showing interest in a coworker, keep an eye out. It doesn't matter what they're telling you, there's a good chance that something's brewing. The scariest thing about this story was the stuff regarding the sexual assault claims that Melissa supposedly used to cover up her cheating. I've heard a few stories like this before, and it's one of the scariest things I can imagine. In an era where social media is everything, an allegation like that could destroy your life instantly. OP should have known that his partner was up to something, given the amount of time she was spending with Cedric. Letting her stay with another man for one night, yet alone 3 months, is insane. Hopefully, OP won't make this mistake again. I must say though, even as a teen I would have seen the writing on the wall, but maybe OP was so into Melissa that his brain couldn't process what was going on. Let's quickly check out the comments to see what they're saying.
Holding says, "You should have known when she began staying overnight at this guy's house. When she moved there because she needed space, did you really think it was platonic? You have all the answers you need to move on, block her number and stop looking at her phone. There's no reason to do that anymore. Move on with your life." So Special says, "So many things you ignored, but you're so young, and this is your first relationship. There's no reason for her to hang out alone with a man from her job so often," which is red flag number 1. "They joined a gym together," red flag number 2. "This girl gave you all the signs that showed she wasn't trustworthy, and you were way too trusting. Be careful about who you let into your heart."
Hopefully, people will learn from the experiences of others so they don't have to go through this sort of thing for themselves. So Special is right though. You really have to vet the people you bring into your life because they can destroy everything.
My wife's grandmother's visiting her sister for a week, and a few months ago my wife told me that she wanted to go visit her. I said, "Okay, but I want to tag along," but she said no because her family's not fond of me anymore, due to me revealing our marriage to them, which she was actually hiding from them. I said, "If I can't come, I'm not okay with you going because I'm your husband." After that, the conversation sort of died off. However, it came back up recently because her grandmother called, asking if she's going to come see her while she's visiting her sister. Again, I said I have no problem with her flying across the country to see her grandmother, but I want to tag along. I don't need to hang out with them. I just want to sleep next to her in the hotel or Airbnb. It seemed like my wife just ignored this because she went behind my back and booked a flight to go see her grandmother for 3 days. I didn't know she was going until she told me the day before. I was very hurt and upset as she said that she wants to go and see her grandmother without me. I insist that as her husband, she should want to bring me, even if I don't intend on spending time with her grandmother. I too would like to get away for a few days, but still get to sleep next to my wife at night. I'd have no problem letting them have the days together, or even joining them if they wanted me to. I'm extremely hurt that she hid this from me until the last minute, and I'm extremely hurt that she's planning on going without me and won't even consider bringing me. She's going to stay at her grandmother's sister's house, even though I offered to get us an Airbnb, a rental car, and pay for everything. Yet, it's a stern no. I feel broken. I want to bring my wife everywhere, and I want her to meet everyone, and yet she doesn't have the courage to bring me with her. Her husband. Her family doesn't like me, as I was very upset that she hid our marriage from them for a whole year. It was me who had to tell them we were married. I'm honestly feeling betrayed, and like this may be a good opportunity for me to terminate the marriage. None of her family lives in the country we reside in, although a few years prior to getting married, I met most of them at a wedding, including said grandmother and her grandmother's sister. She was more than excited to bring me back then. I'm starting to suspect that she's with me just to get a green card. Is this a deal breaker for the marriage?
For the first half of this story, OP was sounding a little needy. Spouses don't have to do everything together, and spending time alone would be good. That said, the manner in which his partner refused to bring him along was a little bit sus. In all honesty, the deal breaker for me would have been the hiding of the marriage, personally. That sounds like a whole load of problems I'd rather not have. There could be many reasons as to why she'd do this, but since she decided to marry OP, whatever reservations her family could have had, she'd already gone against them. Since marriage should be lifelong, her family would have found out about it eventually. If OP's partner wasn't ready to be open about their marriage, she shouldn't have got married in the first place. Towards the end, OP mentioned that she may have only married him for the green card. While I'm not totally familiar with their situation, if he's saying that, there are probably other things he's seen in her that make him think her love isn't genuine. Anyway, let's move on to the comments.
Nexudis says, "I don't know where your wife's going and what she's doing, but I tell you she's not going there to only see her grandmother. It's highly suspicious that she's not allowing any contact between you and her family while hiding the fact you're both married. It's like her family knows something that you're not allowed to know. For me, lying and acting like this is grounds for a very serious conversation with a possible separation on the table. Cooterhawk says, "If it were me, it would be a major deal breaker. I'd tell her to stay there and get a divorce. If she's willing to lie about this, what else is she lying about?"
I think the Redditors are correct. Is there another reason as to why she wants to fly solo on this trip? I hope you enjoyed today's episode of Coffee and Popcorn, and I can't wait to see you on the next one.